Hello, this is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. Oleh Sentsov, the Ukrainian film director illegally jailed in Russia, has been on a hunger strike for almost a month now. According to his lawyer, his health is deteriorating rapidly, but he's not going to give up until all Ukrainians detained in Russia and annexed Crimea have been released. The Kremlin hasn't responded to the demand, but the number of Sentsov supporters around the world continues to grow. Rallies demanding his relief has been held in dozens of countries from Australia to Italy. To talk more about Oleh Sentsov, we welcome to the studio today Anna Palenchuk. She's a film producer and friend of Oleh Sentsov. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
So first of all, I want to learn a bit more about Oleh Sentsov, the person, the director. Can you tell us about how you met and if he was working on a project at that time?
Actually, it's around 7 years ago I heard first time about Oleh Sentsov because he had a really successful film project, Gamma, which were presented in different film festivals, and then he applied to Odessa International Film Festival. His next project. I was managing this pitching program in Odessa International Film Festival, and through this festival I met Oleg the first time. It was around 6 years ago.
And how was he, or how is he as a director? What do people know him for, or his personality?
Actually, Oleg came from Simferopol. It is the main city in Crimea, and unfortunately it was, and even now it's not a film city. There was no some film industry, and as I know that he had a computer club where a lot of people played in computer games, and he sold this club in order to become a film director. So he did his first project, film project, only for his own money. And you know that it's totally opposite than everybody always expects, from film directors. Some governmental support from their films.
Or fundraising or some
fundraising.
Type of...
But he decided to speak with the world with a film language. And actually his debut was quite successful, as I told, because a lot of people around the world, recognize him and his cinematographic language.
What was his focus in films? What type of genre was he most known for?
It was an art house film about a small boy which were a gamer, and then he decided why I played this game, what I'm doing in this life, and what I should do in this life. And actually it was a question not only the main hero of this film, it was a question by Oleh Sentsov also. And after this he became really famous film director, and he started to make his next project. And his next project should be a co-production film, even with Germany. Before arrest, he had the support financial from Ukrainian State Film Agency and one of the biggest film fund in Germany.
And this was the project he was working on, was Rhinoceros.
Yeah, Rhinoceros.
Before he was arrested.
Yes.
Tell us about what was going on then, his process, and where he was in the process when he was detained.
Actually, when we knew that Oleg arrested, we decided to help somehow. Yes, we thought that it will take, it would take 3 days or 4 days or 1 week or maximum 1 month. But then we understand that it's really a serious case, and this case for Putin one of the main cases, because Oleh Sentsov case shows to the big Russian audience, and not only Russian audience, that some small person which not agree that with annexation of Crimea would be arrested and would be in jail. Because Oleh Sentsov, of course, he was working like film director, but when were Maidan, he postponed his film plans and he went to Maidan, and he was in Auto Maidan. And when was annexation of Crimea, he helped to Ukrainian soldiers which were in a really strange position at that moment, because they didn't have these direction rules, what they should do. Everybody remember this.
Right. There was this period where soldiers weren't getting in a lot of direction. Kyiv itself was really having a lot of things to work on. Yeah,
because we didn't have a president at that moment, and etc. And Oleh, you know, he helped to these soldiers in Crimea, real official, that everybody knew that Oleh Sentsov is helping to these soldiers. That's why they catch him. That's why they put him on a jail.
And on this trial, and now he's been in Russia. Now he's now in Russian prison and on a hunger strike, and he's calling for the release. He's not on hunger strike for himself. He's on hunger strike for the release of all the Ukrainian prisoners.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on this? Some say maybe this is too much, that you know, asking for all of the prisoners to be released may be too much. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that we need to follow Oleh's message. If he needs it, probably we can realize it. I don't know, probably our Ukrainian president or the head of other European parliaments or European country or America or other country, they need just support this message. And you know that in 21st century, it's impossible case that in other country exist political prisoners from Ukraine. And we need to make everything what depends from us to let our people go.
And what are you seeing with the support? What's really impressed you with the global support that's being shown from even Moscow, where the film directors are rallying for Sentsov, to the hashtag Save Oleh Sentsov? So we see this outpouring of support around the world. What's really stood out for you?
I think that every actions which do, like every person which I even don't know, influence the whole situation. And it means that now, like, people think globally about Oleh Sentsov, about his health, about these numbers of his days of 100 strike. And I need to tell thanks to every person who staying with some signs about Oleh Sentsov in front of FIFA or in front of some ambassadors of Russian Federation or other ambassadors, or they asked all those persons show their reaction globally, and it means that if would be a lot of people, like more than 1 million, for example, who asking to free Oleh Sentsov, to save Oleh Sentsov and other political prisoners. Probably Putin, Russian president, will hear this message and he will follow all these millions message.
Well, we're hoping to see, and this has unfortunately been a very hard road, and we're hoping, as you said, that all of this outpouring of support, and not just from politicians and diplomats, but from the average person, and people continuously can put some pressure there, as well as diplomatic actions like the sanctions and all of this together, this personal outpouring. Tell us, how can we learn a bit more about Oleh Sentsov? And I know you have with you a book that's been written about him. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, it's a book about Oleh Sentsov, but unfortunately it exists now only in Ukrainian language, but we are going to translate it into English. It's a lot of comments from his colleagues and from his friends from his birthday
So from the time he was born,
yeah,
just from his growing up,
yes,
and his life story, but it's not just his story. You're saying there are also things written by friends and family?
Yeah, from different filmmakers in Russia who knew him and who decided to join this book with these comments. And also in this book there exist materials of the process of the trial of Oleh Sentsov. And we have these materials from his lawyer, Dmitry Dinze. And through this book, every can understand that there is no proof of that he is terrorist, right. No evidence of that he is terrorist. That everything what around Oleh Sentsov now, I mean that he's terrorist, that he did it, it is fake.
Well, and this, I believe, even the international community realizes that this is a political show trial.
Yeah.
And this book is a wonderful way to learn about his life and to see where he came from and up until how he ended up in prison with this political persecution.
Yeah. And the next book, it's a book by Oleh Sentsov. It's novel, and he wrote it before his arrest. Because Oleh Sentsov, he is not only filmmaker, he's a writer, and even Pen Club of America
he was awarded,
support him and always make some petitions and everything to support Oleh Sentsov.
And so the books that are produced aren't the only thing that's going on. I think you told me that you're working now on a screenplay, on developing a play for him.
Yeah, because Oleh Sentsov directly in his letters which he wrote to me, asked me to make his screenplay like producer, because he wrote a really brilliant screenplay which is title of Numbers. It's about numbers which in one moment exist in a stage. It's for theater, of course, screenplay. And all these numbers, like from 1st till 10th, exist on a stage. And they follow the rules which create for them zero number, which exists always high on a stage. And all those numbers which are in a stage from 1st till the 10th, they are not here like this zero number. And all those rules which are they following, it's like stupid rules. In one time they are eating, in one time they are going to bed, in one time they are running, and sometimes they're asking each other why we are following all these rules. And then suddenly they found a child, small child, which is 11th in their numbers, yes. And this child broke all these systems which create for them the zero, because through this child, through this small child, which is growing up on a stage in front of the audience, they can feel a laugh, they can feel a lot of emotions, which they could not feel when they were only numbers from the 1s till the 10s. And few numbers decided to break all these rules and goes and fight with a zero number, which like a god. And I hope that this screenplay, we are going to make premiere of Oleh Sentsov screenplay in November, and I hope that then we would have a lot of theaters abroad invite us to play this screenplay in different countries, because it's a universal story.
Absolutely.
It's about it's a story about our decision to follow all those rules which create for us somebody.
And that may actually make no sense.
Yes.
And we can only hope that by November, Oleh Sentsov will be able to be there to direct his own play. We'd love to see that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today and to telling us more about him as a person and his life. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was Anna Palenchuk. She's a film producer and friend of Oleh Sentsov. Thank you for watching and stay tuned with UATV.